What's up, everybody? I'm going to share my screen. We're starting a new top 10, and it is Uncle Paul's. Let me know. I think you guys should be able to see that. Uncle Paul's top 10 interview tips for 2021, not 2020, 2021. And that's because we're almost at the end of the year. And the chances are that there's probably not a lot of job interviewing going on coming up starting in November and December when the holidays start. However, going into the first of the year, and hopefully you're setting yourself up to get some interviews for the beginning of the year. Hopefully you can close them out. They can be useful for the end of 2020 as well. And again, I hope you all find value in these. So again, today we're going to cover, before we get into this, we're going to cover top 10 job interview tips for 2021, and we're going to cover number 10 and number 9. Before we get started, I want you to go ahead and give me a subscribe, a thumbs up, and hit the alert button if you don't mind doing that. And then also feel free to share this with somebody. If you know somebody's coming up and you find value in these videos or this video, and you know somebody who's getting ready to have a job interview, feel free to share the link with them. Maybe they'll find it helpful and useful, maybe not, but appreciate it if you would, and hopefully they'll find value in it. Just a couple of things. I need to change this. This is actually 2021. This takes into account where we currently are in the world, right? We're not in the normal circumstances of what interviewing looks like. So chances are most likely that you are probably going to be doing some remote and virtual interviews, but there may be cases where you actually have to go in and mask up and do an in-person or on-site interview. So I kind of try and cover, some of these aspects, keep them as broad so it covers both situations, but use your best common sense in terms of what would work for whichever situation you're facing with. So again, these are taken from two perspectives, right? Number one, me as a candidate, having to interview. I've had to do that many times. And even when I'm working full-time for a consulting company, I still have to many times interview with the potential client and customer. They want to, make sure that they talk to me and make sure that I'm going to be a good fit for this project that I'm going to be, or program that I'm going to be assigned to. So I do have that experience. And then the second perspective is from me as a hiring manager. I do a ton of interviewing for roles that we have to fill on projects or programs, or if I'm, in the past when I've run my own teams, I've been the frontline person that does the hiring, and I do a lot of interviewing. So it's taken from both, perspectives. And then I want to encourage you to, supplement what you're hearing from me with, a ton of other resources that you can find on YouTube or on the internet. So with that being said, we're going to jump into number 10 here. And number 10 is pretty straightforward. A lot of these are just common sense, but sometimes you'd be surprised at the number of times that I have to talk to people about, give them coaching in terms of what they should do, and shake my head after an interview and, realize that not everybody gets this. So number 10, show up early or log in early, right? These are both situations that I was telling you about earlier. If you have an in-person or on-site interview, you want to show up at least 15 minutes early, right? So that means give yourself enough time to overcome any traffic jams or accidents that you might face if you, are driving in, if it's, you're not having to travel, or even if you are having to travel, you obviously would have to account for that, lag time in terms of making it to the office on time. But you want to at least be showing up 10 to 15 minutes early, and then, make your presence known to the admin or receptionist, whoever you're meeting at the location, to let them know that you're there. Now, again, they're probably not going to see you, but at least it shows that you're prompt and you're prepared, right? And so that does a lot, right? Versus coming in 5-10 minutes late. What it tells me as a hiring manager is that you didn't take into account and looking forward to the preparation for, an accident or finding parking, or finding the building. A lot of times Waze or, Google Maps or Apple Maps will not have the right location there. So you need to account for that. The second thing is if you're if you have a virtual interview or on Zoom or Skype for Business, you don't want to log in that early. You want to log in 3 to 5 minutes early. And here's why. 5 minutes shows again that you're prepped. You don't want to just go strolling in or, logging into the meeting, right at the start time, right? Showing up a little bit early is okay. But in the event that you do log in early, and sometimes people set up their personal meeting rooms and it's shared with across all their meetings. It's not an individual meeting room ID. So you may log in and there may be a meeting still going. So I want to encourage you, if you see that happening, just log back out and then make sure that you're ready to log back in right at the start of the meeting time. So don't get panicked by it. It happens all the time, but I appreciate when people do log out, and or sometimes they'll just prompt you to say, hey, we're wrapping up, just hang in there, because there's nothing that you can't hear. So just be cognizant and aware of that. So that is number 10. Number 9, and this is huge. I've actually, cut candidates because they can't get their technology to work, but make sure your technology is working. This is on you. And you especially want to make sure it's working if you are applying for a job in IT. If you can't make sure that your own personal computer has all the needed components to participate in, if it's a virtual or Zoom or a Skype meeting, and that your IT isn't working, doesn't bode well. Even if you get things figured out, if you only have a half an hour with me and I'm the hiring manager and we spend 5-10 minutes trying to figure out your technology that you should have taken care of beforehand, does not bode well for you. It's not going to help you get that job. And I've let people go right on the spot and said, hey, this isn't going to work out. Appreciate you showing up. That's not on me to fix your IT and your technology. We don't owe you anything. You have to do that on your own. And what I mean by that is, don't show up the morning of, a half an hour, 15 minutes before, to try and get your IT set up. If you know you have an interview tomorrow, get it set up the day before. If you have an interview tomorrow morning on Monday or Tuesday or the next day, you should be doing it the day before so that you can get the help that you need. You should be doing it so that you can download any extra drivers that you need. A lot of times, if you haven't used a certain application, but it's what the client wants to interview you for, the potential hiring company, you have to make sure that you're set up to accommodate what they're offering the interview opportunity on, right? So again, don't do it the day before, because sometimes if you haven't used something in a while, maybe you'll have to download a newer version, right? Maybe you haven't used Zoom before. Maybe you have to download and install that. Maybe you don't have the current version of your operating system, so that might take you, if you're one of those slackers who never updates your operating system, you might not be able to operate the most current version. And sometimes those operating updates take forever to download and install, and then it changes things on your settings. There's all kinds of issues that you'll have to work through. You don't want to be doing that 15 minutes, half an hour before your meeting starts. It's not a good look for you. So again, do that the day before, get your computer updated, and then make sure you have the most recent version of the application which you're logging into, whether that be Skype, Zoom, or what have you. But that typically, again, requires you to have an updated operating system. Don't be that slacker, at least for the interview. You can be a slacker the rest of the day if you want to, or the rest of your life. Don't do it for the interview, because this is your livelihood you're messing with. So we talked about, making sure your operating software is up to date. Make sure your cell phone is charged, because sometimes if there is an issue, maybe your internet connectivity isn't great. Maybe the business is having issues. Sometimes if you're using enterprise software for these virtual meetings, sometimes there's enterprise issues. So you need to be ready with your cell phone, making sure it's charged. Make sure you have headsets for your cell phone. Make sure you have as well, because again, you're putting people on the speakerphone when there's a conference call going on. There's typically echo and delay, and it causes for unnecessary interruptions. So don't do that. Put your cell phone headphones on. If you don't have a pair, they're so cheap. You can run out and get a pair, or borrow your kids. They'll have something that can work for you. Try not to use Bluetooth also. If you can go hardwired, that will help you out as well. And then make sure, again, your audio and your video is working. You'll have to sometimes go into the settings of whatever application you're looking to use. And so if you're going to use headsets, make sure that the application is set up for you to use your headsets. If you're going to be using your computer speakers, or which I highly don't recommend, right? I really don't recommend you doing that. Or your speaker phone, don't do that, right? Use something that's hardwired. And then the last tip that I want to give you is, if you're interviewing in a corporate, larger corporate environment, there's a high chance that you still may be using Skype for Business for the interview. And the reason I bring that up is that Skype for Business is different than Skype. It's not the same application. So when you get that meeting notice, You cannot just take that meeting number, plug it into Skype if the company that you're interviewing with is using Skype for Business. It will not work. And again, if you have a good team that's, ahead of their game, they'll send out a note to your recruiter or to you saying, hey, just an FYI, we're using Skype for Business. And I do that as a hiring manager to give people a heads up, because I know that they're going to have to then find the software, download it, get it installed, which again should be being done prior to the meeting, not the morning of or the day of or half an hour beforehand. But you want to make sure that you have that installed and that it's up and working and that you're ready to go. Because again, if I give you the heads up that you need this and you still try and log in with Skype, probably not getting the job. So again, ask. If you don't know and you just get a meeting notice and you're not sure, be proactive and ask. It shows that you are aware and you know what's going on potentially. And I think that looks better for you if you do ask ahead of time versus trying to log in right at the time of and it not working. So anyway, that's number 10. And number 9, again, do me a favor, share this with anybody who might be having a job interview coming up, or if you are. And then also hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and hit the alert button. And I'm going to stop sharing here. We will talk to you on the next video, which will be covering number 8 and number 7. Thank you.